The package sat on my doorstep like a landmine waiting to detonate. No return address, just my name in precise block letters that seemed too deliberate to be casual. I should have known better than to open it, should have trusted that creeping sensation along my spine that whispered something was wrong. My name is Chloe, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I understood my life. Funny how a single USB drive can shatter 28 years of marriage into sharp, glittering pieces. The video plays again on my laptop screen. I can't stop watching it, like pressing on a bruise to make sure it still hurts. Sam, my late husband, sits in an unfamiliar living room, bouncing a toddler on his knee. A woman I've never met leans into the frame, kissing his cheek. The timestamp shows this was filmed just 3 months before his heart attack. Connor needs to see this, I whispered to the empty kitchen, but my hands are already closing the laptop. My older son worshipped his father. This would destroy him just like it's destroying me. My phone buzzes. Speaking of Connor. Mom, Sophie and I were thinking about Dad's old beach house, he says, not bothering with hello. You're not using it, and we could really use the equity for our new place. I grip the counter, knuckles white. The beach house isn't for sale, Connor. We've discussed this. But it's just sitting there empty. Dad would have wanted... Your father wanted a lot of things, I cut in, the bitterness surprising even me. Apparently, he wanted a whole second family none of us knew about. Silence crackles across the line. What are you talking about? Nothing. Forget I said anything. But it's too late. I can hear the shift in his breathing, the way he's already gearing up for an argument. Mum, you can't just say something like that and then, I need to go. I hang up before he can protest, then immediately silence my phone as it starts buzzing again. The doorbell rings, making me jump. Through the peephole, I see Eli, my younger son, shifting from foot to foot on the porch. He's always had an uncanny sense for when something's wrong. I open the door and he takes one look at my face before stepping inside. What happened? Your father. I start, then stop, unsure how to continue. How do you tell your child their dead father had been living a double life? Eli guides me to the couch, his artist's hands gentle on my shoulders. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. I shake my head, reaching for the laptop. Someone sent me this today. I don't know who, but... I open it, start the video again. Eli watches in silence, his face growing paler with each passing second. When it ends, he lets out a long breath. Jesus Christ, Dad. There's more, I say, clicking through the files. Bank statements. Years of transfers to an account in their name. Our name, he gave them our name, Eli. They're out there somewhere, living as Mitchells. Connor's going to lose it, Eli murmurs, running a hand through his hair. Especially with the inheritance stuff already. I know. I close the laptop again, suddenly exhausted. And Sophie will make sure he does. Sophie. Eli's voice carries a note of disgust. She's been pushing him about the beach house, hasn't she? I nod, remembering the way Connor's fiancée looked at me during our last family dinner, her smile sharp as a blade. She wants everything she thinks we owe them. And now... I gesture at the laptop. Now I don't even know what we really have anymore. What else was he hiding? Eli takes my hand, squeezing it gently. What are you going to do? I look down at our joined hands, thinking of Sam's other family, of Sophie's manipulative games, of Connor's increasing demands. 28 years of memories shift and reform, taking on new, darker shapes. I'm going to find out exactly what your father left behind, I say finally. And then I'm going to make sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve. 3 days after the video arrived, I sit across from Connor at our family's beach house, watching him pace like a caged animal. The late afternoon sun catches the dust motes he stirs up, making them dance like tiny accusations in the air. You're telling me Dad had another family? And you're just mentioning this now? His voice cracks on the last word. I needed time to process it myself. I run my finger along a scratch in the dining table, remembering Sam teaching Connor to ride his bike on the deck outside. How many other children had he taught to ride bikes? Show me the video again. Connor, show me. He slams his hand on the table, making the crystal vase jump. Sam's mother's vase, another inheritance to fight over. I open the laptop, but before I can press play, Sophie sweeps in through the French doors. Sorry I'm late, traffic was terrible. She kisses Connor's cheek, then freezes, reading the room. What's wrong? Connor gestures at the laptop. Mum's been keeping secrets. Sophie slides into the chair beside him, her manicured hand finding his arm. Perfect nails, perfect clothes, perfect mask of concern. What kind of secrets? I press play instead of answering. Let her see for herself. Let her calculate how this affects her plans. The video plays. Sam laughs on screen, bouncing that unknown child. Sophie's grip on Connor's arm tightens visibly. Those bank statements, she says when it ends, voice carefully neutral. How much was he sending them? Of course, that's her first question. Enough to buy several beach houses, I reply, watching her face. So what you're saying is, half of what we thought was our inheritance isn't even ours. Connor runs his hands through his hair, messing it up the way he did as a teenager when stressed about exams. That's not what I'm saying at all. I close the laptop firmly. I'm saying we need to take time to understand what this means before making any decisions about property or money. Sophie leans forward. But surely this changes things legally. If there's another family with claims to the estate. There's nothing legal about what Sam did, I cut in, and I'm still executor of the estate. Which means you get to decide everything, Connor stands abruptly. Like always. That's not fair, I start, but Sophie's already speaking over me. Connor's right, Chloe. You can't expect us to just sit back while you figure things out on your own. We have a right to know what's happening with our future. Our future. Not Connor's future. Ours. The front door opens and Eli walks in, carrying his camera bag. He takes in the scene, Connor's clenched fists, Sophie's predatory posture, my white-knuckled grip on the laptop. Thought I might find everyone here, he says quietly. Did you know? Connor demands. Did Mom tell you first? I found out when she did. Eli sets his bag down carefully. And before you start yelling, maybe consider that Mom's the victim here too. The victim? Sophie's laugh is sharp as broken glass. She's the one with all the power. She could sell this place tomorrow if she wanted to, couldn't she? Is that what this is really about? I stand slowly. The beach house? Don't twist this around, Connor snaps. This isn't about the house. It's about you hiding things from us. Again. 3 days, I say. I waited 3 days to tell you your father had been lying to all of us for years. Forgive me if I needed a moment to breathe before shattering your world too. Silence falls, heavy with unspoken accusations. Sophie breaks it first, her voice honey-sweet with false concern. Maybe we should all take some time to process this. Connor and I could stay here for a few days, couldn't we, Chloe? It would give us all space to think. I meet her gaze steadily. The house isn't available. Mom, Connor starts. No, my voice is steel now. This house stays in my name until I decide otherwise. If you want to discuss the rest of the inheritance, we can do that through the lawyers. Lawyers? Connor looks stricken. You're bringing in lawyers now? I think that's wise, Sophie says, standing. Come on, Connor, we should go. I watch them leave, Sophie steering Connor toward the door with a practiced hand. Just before they exit, she glances back at me and for a moment her mask slips. I see calculation in her eyes and something like fear. Eli moves to stand beside me. You okay? No, I answer honestly, but I will be. Will? The private investigator's report lands in my inbox at 3 a.m. I've been waiting for it, unable to sleep, watching the shadows crawl across my ceiling. Sophie's family history unfolds on my screen like a cheap tragedy, foreclosed homes, bankruptcies, and a string of wealthy fiancés who mysteriously lost interest before reaching the altar. Grace calls just after sunrise. You're sure about this? My sister-in-law's voice carries the weight of 20 years of friendship. The report's thorough. I pour coffee with shaking hands. Sophie's father's company went under last month. They're drowning in debt. And Connor has no idea? He sees what she wants him to see. Just like I did with Sam. The parallel makes my stomach turn. What are you going to do? Before I can answer, my doorbell rings. Through the window, I see Sophie standing on my porch, perfectly coiffed despite the early hour. I have to go, she's here. Who's? I end the call, tucking my phone away. Sophie doesn't wait for an invitation, striding past me into the foyer. We need to talk about Connor. Do we? I close the door slowly, gathering myself. Or do we need to talk about your family's financial situation? She freezes, one hand clutching her designer handbag, a knockoff I now know. I don't know what you mean. Your father's bankruptcy, the foreclosure notices, the pattern of wealthy men who… Stop! Her voice cracks, the perfect facade splintering. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're using my son to save yourself. I love Connor. You love what he represents. I move closer, watching her step back. Security, status, a way out of your family's mess. Like you didn't marry Sam for his money? Her eyes narrow, desperate. Everyone knows you were just a resident when you met. He gave you everything. The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign to my own ears. Is that what you think? I paid for medical school myself. The practice was mine before I met Sam. He didn't give me anything I hadn't already earned. Then why won't you give Connor what he deserves? The beach house. This isn't about the beach house anymore. I pull out my phone, opening the report. Should we talk about David? Or Michael, your other almost fiancés? Colour drains from her face. You had me investigated. Like you investigated me? Don't think I haven't noticed you digging through our financial records, asking questions about Sam's estate. Connor deserves to know what his father did. The other family… Don't. My voice turns to ice. Don't you dare use Sam's mistakes to justify your lies. She straightens, desperation replaced by something harder. If you show Connor that report, I'll tell him everything. About how you're hiding assets, how you knew about the other family for weeks before telling him. 3 days. I waited 3 days. That's not how he'll see it. Her smile turns cruel. He already thinks you're controlling, manipulative. It won't take much to convince him you're the villain here. Get out of my house. Think carefully about your next move, Chloe. She adjusts her fake designer bag. Connor's fragile right now. Finding out about his father broke something in him. Do you really want to break him more? After she leaves, I stand in my kitchen, hands pressed flat against the cool granite counter. My phone buzzes, a text from Eli. Saw Sophie leaving. You okay? I stare at the message, thinking about choices and consequences, about Sam's secrets and Sophie's threats, about Connor, caught between manipulation and truth. My fingers hover over the keyboard, then move decisively. No, I type, but I know what I have to do. I open my email, forward the investigator's report to my lawyer, then start a new message to Connor. The subject line stays blank for a long moment before I type, what you need to know. Sophie's right about one thing, the truth will break him. But sometimes things need to break before they can heal properly. I should know. I'm a doctor, after all. I press send before I can change my mind, then pick up my phone again to call Grace. I'll need allies for what comes next, and she's always been good at picking up pieces. The sun climbs higher outside my window as I wait for the explosion I've just set in motion. Let Sophie play her games. I've spent my life putting people back together. I know exactly how things break. The engagement party invitation arrives like a slap. Cream-coloured cardstock with gold embossing, as fake as everything else about Sophie. I find Connor waiting in my office at the hospital that afternoon, the same invitation crumpled in his fist. You had no right. His voice is eerily calm. No right to investigate her. I continue reviewing my patient charts, letting the familiar medical terminology anchor me. Someone had to. Her family's financial troubles aren't your business. Neither was your father's second family, but here we are. The words escape before I can stop them. Connor slams his hand on my desk, scattering papers. This isn't about Dad, isn't it? I finally look up. You're so desperate to prove you're not him that you can't see you're making the same mistakes. Sophie loves me. Sophie loves money. I pull the investigator's report from my drawer. Did she tell you about David, the hedge fund manager she was engaged to last year? His face pales. That's not. Or Michael, the real estate developer. Both relationships ended when their financial situations changed. I push the file toward him. Read it. Or don't. But don't tell me I had no right to protect my son. Protect me? He laughs, harsh and broken. Like you protected us from knowing about Dad's other family? That was different. Was it? He stands, towering over my desk. You're just like him, controlling everything, deciding what everyone else gets to know. The comparison hits like a physical blow. Before I can respond, my office door opens and Grace steps in, freezing at the tension in the room. I can come back, she starts, but Connor's already moving past her. Don't bother. I was just leaving. He pauses at the door. The engagement party's next Saturday. Don't come. Grace waits until his footsteps fade before speaking. That went well. He's making a mistake. I straighten the scattered papers with shaking hands. Probably. She sits in the chair Connor vacated. But it's his mistake to make. Not if I can stop it. Chloe. Her voice carries a warning. You're walking a dangerous line here. You didn't see the look in Sophie's eyes when I confronted her. She's desperate. And you're not? Grace leans forward. Look at yourself. When's the last time you slept? You're letting this consume you. What else am I supposed to do? Watch her destroy him? Maybe. She holds up a hand when I start to protest. Sometimes we have to let people we love hit bottom before they can see clearly. My phone buzzes. A text from Eli. Sophie's at the beach house with movers. The world tilts sideways. That's impossible. She doesn't have keys. Connor does, Grace says quietly. I'm already grabbing my coat. Grace follows me to the parking lot, sliding into my passenger seat without asking. What are you doing? I demand. Making sure you don't do anything stupid. She buckles her seatbelt pointedly, like Sam would have done. The comparison stings just like Connor's did. I'm nothing like Sam. No, she watches me grip the steering wheel. You're both willing to destroy your family to protect it. We drive in silence, the autumn sun setting behind storm clouds. When we reach the beach house, there's a moving truck in the driveway and Sophie directing men carrying out antiques. My antiques, Sam's mother's antiques. Eli stands on the porch looking lost. I tried to stop them. Connor gave them authorization papers. Where is he? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Inside with the estate lawyer. Sophie appears in the doorway, triumphant, signing over his portion of the property. It's amazing what people will do for love, isn't it? The world narrows to a single point. Sophie's smiling face, so sure of her victory. Behind me, Grace makes a small sound of warning, but I'm already moving forward, 28 years of betrayal and loss crystallizing into this moment. You want to see what people will do for love? I reach for my phone, Sophie's carefully constructed world about to shatter. Let me show you. Grace's warning echoes in my head as I study the engagement party venue through my car window. The country club's pristine facade masks the storm brewing inside, just like Sophie's perfect smile hides her desperation. You don't have to do this, Eli says from the passenger seat. We could just go home. I check my phone one last time, reviewing the email from Sophie's previous fiancé. His words burn across the screen. She'll destroy everything you love and make you thank her for it. No, I say, tucking the phone away. We're finishing this. Inside, crystal chandeliers throw fractured light across familiar faces. Sophie's parents hover near the bar, their designer clothes as fraudulent as their daughter's smile. Connor stands beside them, champagne in hand, looking lost in his own engagement party. Dr. Mitchell, Sophie materializes beside me, her voice honey-sweet. I didn't expect you to come, given our discussion at the beach house. I wouldn't miss it. I match her tone. Though I notice Sam's mother's silver isn't decorating the tables. Her smile tightens. Connor's lawyer assured us the pieces were part of his inheritance. The lawyer you chose for him, you mean? Before she can respond, Connor appears. Mom, please, not tonight. When then? The words escape before I can stop them. After she's sold everything we have left? Dr. Mitchell. Sophie's father joins us, swaying slightly. Such a pleasure. Sophie tells me you're being very generous with Connor's inheritance. I watch his expensive watch catch the light, probably borrowed, like everything else in their lives. Actually, I wanted to discuss that. The trust fund has some interesting stipulations. Sophie's hand tightens on Connor's arm. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time. I pull out my phone. Before we discuss inheritance, maybe we should talk about your father's bankruptcy, or your previous engagements. The colour drains from Sophie's face. Behind her, her father stumbles backward, knocking into a waiter. Champagne glasses shatter against marble floors. What previous engagements? Connor's voice cuts through the sudden silence. Mom, don't. Eli touches my arm. Not like this. But I'm already pulling up the photos. Sophie with David, with Michael, with each man who thought she loved him until their money ran out. Show him, Sophie. Show him how you really operate. Connor, she's lying. Sophie's voice cracks. She's trying to control you just like she always has. Like Sam controlled me? The words taste like ash. I watched my husband build a second life while I smiled and played the perfect wife. I won't watch my son make the same mistake. Chloe. Grace appears from nowhere, her presence steady. Think about what you're doing. Connor looks between us, confusion giving way to anger. You're all talking about me like I'm not even here, like I can't make my own choices. Because your choices are destroying this family. The words echo across the suddenly silent room. No, Mom. Connor steps back, pulling Sophie with him. You are. The truth of it hits like a physical blow. I look around the room, at the horrified guests, at Eli's pained expression, at Grace's disappointment. I've become exactly what I feared, someone who would burn everything to save it. Sophie sees her advantage and takes it. I think you should leave. Connor, I try one last time, please just look at the evidence. Get out! His voice is ice. Now! I turn to leave, dignity crumbling with each step, but at the door I hear Sophie's father slur loudly. At least we got the beach house before she figured it out. The room freezes. I turn back slowly, watching Connor's face as understanding finally breaks through. What does he mean, got the beach house? He releases Sophie's arm. What did you do? Sophie's mask slips just for a moment. It's enough. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I feel hollow as I watch my son's world crumble, just like mine did with that USB drive. This is what revenge costs. Not just the target, but everyone around them. I'll be at home, I tell him quietly, when you're ready to talk. Outside, the night air feels thick with possibilities and regret. Eli follows me to the car, his silence more eloquent than words. Did I just make everything worse? I ask. He considers for a long moment. Maybe, but at least now everything's true. Truth. Such a simple word for such devastating consequences. I start the car, wondering if Sam felt this same mixture of victory and loss when he started his second family. If he ever understood the real cost of his choices. I'm beginning to. The beach house feels like a tomb in the pre-dawn darkness. I sit at Sam's old desk, surrounded by the wreckage of Sophie's movers, empty spaces where paintings hung, gaps in the shelving where family photos stood. The USB drive that started everything sits beside an unopened bottle of Sam's favourite scotch. My phone lights up. Grace. Connor's looking for Sophie, she says without preamble. She disappeared after the party. Her parents too. Of course they did. I trace the edge of the desk where Connor carved his initials as a child. They got what they wanted. Not everything. The beach house transfer wasn't legal. Your lawyer already filed an injunction. It doesn't matter anymore. I stare at the scotch bottle. I lost him anyway. The front door creaks. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. I know those steps. Heard them stomping upstairs through teenage tantrums, trudging home after football losses, walking away from me at the engagement party. Connor appears in the doorway looking like he's aged years in hours. They're gone, he says, all of them. The apartment's empty. I know. They took everything. His voice cracks. The ring, The money I gave them for the wedding venue, even my car. Connor, don't. He slumps against the doorframe. Just don't say you told me so. I wasn't going to. I push the scotch bottle aside. I was going to say I'm sorry. He laughs, bitter and broken. For what? Being right? Trying to protect me? Or for waiting until I was completely humiliated to do it? The accusation hits home. I thought exposing her would save you. Save me? He straightens, anger flaring. You destroyed me, Mom, in front of everyone we know, just like Dad destroyed you with that video. That's different. Is it? He moves to the window, staring out at the dark ocean. You both decided what everyone else needed to know, when they needed to know it. You controlled the truth just like he did. The parallel steals my breath. Connor, please. I found this in Sophie's things. He pulls out a familiar envelope, the one that held the USB drive. She's the one who sent you the video about Dad's other family. Did you know that? The room tilts sideways. What? She found them months ago. Used it to pressure Dad's lawyer about the inheritance. His laugh is hollow. Guess she learned from the best, right? Using people's secrets against them? I grip the desk edge, remembering Sophie's words at our confrontation. Everyone knows you married Sam for his money. She'd known then. Had orchestrated everything. I was trying to protect you, I whisper. No. Connor turns, his face hard in the dim light. You were trying to win, just like Sophie, just like Dad. And look what it got us. He drops the envelope on the desk. The beach house is yours. Everything's yours. I don't want any of it anymore. Where will you go? Does it matter? He moves toward the door, then pauses. You know what the worst part is? Sophie might have been using me, but at least she was honest about who she was in the end. You're still lying to yourself about what this was really about. The door closes behind him with devastating finality. I sit in the growing dawn, surrounded by the ruins of 2 generations of betrayal. The USB drive glows faintly, a technological ghost holding all our failures. My phone buzzes again, Eli this time. Mom, you okay? I stare at the message, thinking about Sam's secrets, Sophie's manipulations, my own righteous certainty that revenge would heal everything. No, I type back. I don't think I am. The sun rises over the ocean, painting everything in harsh morning light. I open Sam's scotch with shaking hands, pour a measure into his favourite crystal tumbler, one of the few pieces Sophie's movers didn't take. You would have loved this, I tell his empty chair. All of us destroying each other with the truth. Isn't that what you were afraid of? Why you never told us about them? The scotch burns going down. Outside, waves crash against the shore, eternal and indifferent to our human dramas. I pick up the USB drive, turning it in my hands, finally understanding that revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just passes them down, generation after generation. Each of us thinking we're different, we're justified, we're right. Until we're all equally wrong. A week after Connor walks out, I find Sophie waiting in my hospital office. She sits in my chair, perfectly poised, as if she hasn't destroyed everything she touched. Bold of you to come here, I say, closing the door behind me. Desperate times. She gestures to the chair across from her, my guest chair in my office. Please sit. I remain standing. Where's Connor? Gone. She examines her manicured nails. But you knew that already. The question is, where's the money? What money? Don't play stupid, Chloe. The offshore accounts, Sam's secret investments. Her smile turns sharp. Did you think I only found the video? I found everything. The floor seems to shift beneath my feet. Sam's voice echoes in my memory. Just sign these papers, honey. Trust me to handle the finances. I don't know what you're talking about. No. She pulls out her phone, starts reading. 3 accounts in the Cayman Islands. A shell company in Panama. All technically legal, but messy if the IRS starts asking questions. She looks up. Connor's signature is on half these documents. Did you know that? My blood runs cold. Sam wouldn't what? Set up his son to take the fall if things went wrong? She laughs. You really didn't know him at all, did you? What do you want? A deal. She stands, moving around the desk. You transfer the beach house to Connor, legally this time, and I'll make sure these documents never reach the authorities. You're blackmailing me with my own son. I learned from the best. She perches on the desk edge. Wasn't that what you did? Used Sam's secrets to control Connor? I was protecting him. So am I. Her voice softens with false sympathy. He's fragile right now, Chloe. Finding out his father made him an unwitting accomplice to tax fraud. It would destroy him. The pieces click together. You planned this from the beginning. The video, the engagement, all of it. Not all of it. You did most of the work yourself. She straightens, smoothing her skirt. Your revenge against me gave me everything I needed. Connor hates you now. He'll believe anything I tell him. He won't. He already has. She holds up her phone, showing me a text conversation. Connor's words blur before my eyes. Mum never cared about protecting me, only about controlling everything. My hands shake as I reach for my own phone. I'm calling security. Go ahead. I'll be gone before they arrive. But these documents? She waves her phone. They'll go straight to the IRS. Your choice, Chloe. The door opens. Eli steps in, camera in hand. Actually, he says quietly, I think we got everything we need. Sophie's mask slips for the first time. What? Did you really think I'd meet you alone? I ask, finding my strength. After everything? You recorded every word. Eli holds up his camera, including the blackmail attempt, the confession about the video, everything. She lunges for the camera. Eli steps back, bumping into Grace as she enters with 2 police officers. Sophie Williams. One officer steps forward. We'd like to ask you some questions about fraud and extortion. You can't prove anything. But her voice wavers. Actually, Grace says, we can. The offshore accounts. They don't exist. Sam was many things, but he never involved Connor in anything illegal. You played your hand too hard. I watch Sophie's perfect facade crumble as the officers lead her away. Her final glare holds more venom than any snake. Connor, she says, pausing at the door. He'll never forgive you for this. Maybe not. I meet her gaze steadily, but at least he'll be free of both our manipulations. After she's gone, I sink into my chair, in my office. Eli puts his hand on my shoulder. You okay? No. I look up at my children, one here, one lost to the aftermath of all our choices. But maybe now we can start being honest about why. Grace picks up Sophie's abandoned phone. Should we call Connor? Not yet. I think of Sam, of Sophie, of all the secrets we keep thinking they'll protect the ones we love. He needs to find his own truth first. We all do. Outside my office window, the sun breaks through storm clouds. Not an ending, not really, but maybe, finally, a chance to begin again. Without secrets, without revenge, without the shadows we cast trying to protect each other from the light. The beach house looks different in winter. Waves crash against the shore, darker and more insistent than the summer swells. I'm packing Sam's old desk when I hear footsteps on the porch, too heavy for Eli, too hesitant for Grace. Connor stands in the doorway thinner than I remember, shadows under his eyes that weren't there before. The door was unlocked, he says. It always is. I continue sorting papers, giving him space to find his words. He moves to the window where the antique vase sits, the one Sophie's movers tried to take. You're selling it then? Converting it. I close a drawer. Eli's turning it into an art gallery. His work deserves to be seen. And your practice? Retired last month. I watch his reflection in the window. Turns out revenge is exhausting work. He turns, almost smiling. That's why you're giving up the beach house? Tired of fighting? No. I meet his eyes. I'm giving up the idea that holding on to things means holding on to people. Silence stretches between us, filled with waves and winter wind. Connor picks up a framed photo, him and Eli as children, building sandcastles where the gallery will soon stand. Sophie took a plea deal, he says finally. She's paying restitution to her other victims. I know. Did you know about them? Before? Not all of them. I moved to stand beside him. Just like your father's other family. We see what we choose to see. He sets the photo down carefully. I found them, you know. Dad's other kids. They're... He swallows hard. They're good people. They didn't ask for any of this either. None of us did. I was so angry at you, he says, for exposing Sophie, for trying to control everything. But then I realized I was really angry at myself, for being just like Dad, for needing someone else to save me from my own choices. Connor, let me finish. His voice shakes. I understand now why he kept secrets, why you exposed them, why Sophie tried to destroy us all. We were all just scared of losing control. I think of Sam's video, of Sophie's threats, of my own desperate need to protect my son from truths he needed to find himself. The gallery opening is next month, I say. Eli's featuring a series about family, about the shadows we cast trying to protect each other from the light. Subtle little brother. But Connor's almost smile returns. Will you be there? Yes. I touch the photo frame. Will you? He's quiet for a long moment. I'm not ready to move back. I need to figure out who I am without everyone else's expectations. I know. But maybe... He straightens. Maybe I could come to the opening, see what Eli's done with the place. He'd like that. I turn to face him fully. I would too. The doorbell rings. Eli, right on time. Connor steps back, moving toward the side door. I should go. Connor, I catch his arm. The door's always unlocked, remember that. He nods once, then slips out into the winter afternoon. Through the window, I watch him pause at the edge of the property, looking back at the house, at the ocean, at the life we're all slowly learning to rebuild. Eli enters, carrying paint samples and renovation plans. Was that? Yes. Is he okay? No. I pick up the photo of my sons in happier days. But maybe that's okay too. We all need to break before we can heal differently. Deep thoughts for a gallery renovation? Eli teases, but his eyes are understanding. Speaking of renovation, I hand him an envelope. This came yesterday from Sam's other family. He reads quickly, eyes widening. They want to invest in the gallery? They want to be part of something honest. I look around the room, seeing not what was lost, but what might be built in its place. Something that acknowledges all our shadows while letting in new light. Outside, the winter sun breaks through clouds, casting long shadows across the beach. Soon this room will be filled with Eli's art, with new memories, with truths we're finally strong enough to face. The waves keep crashing, eternal and indifferent. But in their rhythm I hear something I've been missing, not an ending but a transformation. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. Sometimes that's enough.
From now on, I'd like you to pay $1,500 every month. The amount was so large, and the request so sudden that my mind went blank. If you pay the $1,500, I will let you see Alex anytime, but if you don't pay, I can't let you meet him. You wouldn't like to never meet your grandson, would you, Mother? Using my grandson to threaten me, I can picture Mandy smirking on the other end of the phone. I never dreamed she would do something like this. What should I do? I don't want to lose the chance to see my grandson, but if I pay now, the demands will only increase. I decided to speak up. I'm Cindy Manning. Since my husband passed away, I've been living a comfortable life on my own. I thought living alone would be lonely, but I feel connected to people through my part-time job, so I don't feel lonely. Instead, I'm enjoying my freedom. I was having a happy life, but there was one thing that bothered me. It was about my daughter-in-law, Mandy. My only son, Brian, works as a hairdresser. Mandy used to visit his salon and request him specifically. They were attracted to each other over time, and it seems she made the first move. I felt something off about Mandy when I visited Brian's hair salon. I occasionally visit and ask for Brian, but once Mandy was there before me. Even after her treatment was finished, Mandy didn't leave, and when Brian kindly told her there's another customer waiting, Mandy glared at me sharply. Prioritized me over some old lady. I was stunned by her remark, but Brian managed to calm the situation down. While getting my hair cut, I murmured, "What a girl." Brian hesitantly spoke up. "Actually, she's my girlfriend. She's a bit selfish and jealous, but she's a good person." Brian smiled as he spoke of Mandy's good points, and I couldn't say anything more. If Brian says so, she must be a good person. I forced myself to accept that. Later, they got married and had a boy. I had my doubts about her, but when she came to greet us, she was as kind and good as Brian had said. Since Brian chose her, I decided to accept her. The boy, named Alex, looked a lot like Brian and was adorable. I wanted to see Alex as soon as possible, but Mandy had gone back to her parents' home. Even after Mandy returned, it was hard to find a time to meet, and almost 4 months had passed without seeing him. Although Brian sent me photos and videos regularly, I still wanted to meet Alex in person, so I decided to contact Mandy. At that time, Brian seemed to be busy and rarely responded. When I did manage to talk to him, he seemed distracted. "How have you been? You must be having happy days with the baby born, right?" Even then, Brian only gave a vague reply. "Well, yeah. Having a child with someone he loved was hard, and balancing parenting and work must be tough, so I tried not to think too deeply about it." I took out my smartphone and called Mandy's number. I felt sorry for bothering her during her tiring parenting, but I thought I'd at least express my hopes. 4 months without meeting my first grandson was indeed lonely. Surprisingly, Mandy answered the phone quickly. When I said I wanted to meet Alex, Mandy responded, "Mother, do you want to meet Alex?" "Of course, I want to meet him. But prioritize your health, Mandy. If it's difficult now, we can plan for a later date." Postpartum recovery can be tough. I wanted to meet Alex, but I was also worried about Mandy's health. "No, I'm fine. You can meet Alex. But I have a request." "A request?" It was unusual for Mandy to have a request. If she was having trouble, I would help as much as I could. While I was wondering what she might ask for, Mandy said something shocking. "From now on, I'd like you to pay $1,500 every month." $1,500? Every month? The amount was so large, and the request so sudden that my mind went blank. $1,500 a month? That's too much. Mandy, what's wrong? Are you having trouble? It's not exactly trouble, but raising a child costs money, doesn't it? Was Brian really that underpaid? I thought that if they lived frugally, they could make enough money to have a decent life. I could send about $300. As I said this, Mandy laughed as if mocking me. "That's not enough. Do you think Alex is only worth $300, Mother?" "Alex worth?" How did it come to this? I couldn't understand Mandy's thinking. "If you pay the $1,500, I will let you see Alex any time. But if you don't pay, I can't let you meet him. You wouldn't like to never meet your grandson, would you, Mother?" Was she using Alex to threaten me? I knew she was a bit self-centered, but I never thought she would do something like this. "I can't transfer the money." I firmly made that clear. "Are you sure about this? I really won't let you meet him, you know. I don't earn enough to pay that much every month. I would like to help Mandy and Brian if they were really in trouble, but I can't afford $1,500 every month. That's fine. I just don't have that kind of money. I shouted that and hung up the phone, an exchange of harsh words. Will I never see him again? It would indeed be sad not to meet Alex even once. Alex is a cute boy who looks a lot like Brian. I wanted to see how he would grow up right by his side, if possible. But if I give them the money, that will be the end of it, right? In such cases, once you start giving money, the demands will only get worse. Right now it's $1,500, but eventually they might get carried away and demand an astronomical amount. Thinking about it, I just couldn't bring myself to give them the money. I sighed deeply without realizing. I never imagined Mandy would extort money from me. I knew she was self-centered, but to do something like this? Once things have cooled down, I'll ask Brian to let me meet him secretly. It might be difficult to sneak past Mandy, but there might be a chance once a year. Also, when Alex starts elementary school, I might be able to catch a glimpse of him on his way to school. It's okay. It doesn't mean I'll never get to see him. Consoling myself, I stopped dwelling on it further. A month hadn't even passed since that conversation when suddenly Mandy called. I hesitated for a moment before answering, but I answered anyway. I thought maybe Mandy had reconsidered. Perhaps she had realized her mistake and was calling to apologize. Mother, can I ask you to look after Alex tomorrow? However, that was the first thing she said. It seemed she had completely forgotten about our previous call. I swallowed my rising anger and replied calmly. I'm sorry, but tomorrow won't work. I have to go to my part-time job. Huh? That's troublesome. Why don't you just take a day off? I can't just take a day off that easily. If I were to take a day off, I'd need to find a replacement and inform them. I doubted I could find someone today who could work tomorrow. Moreover, if no replacement could be found, the store would have to operate short-staffed, which would cause even more inconvenience. I didn't want to take the day off easily. Anyway, it's impossible, so please ask someone else. Mandy seemed dissatisfied, but what's impossible is impossible. And after saying last time that she wouldn't let me meet him, now she wants me to take care of him? Truly selfish. Then it's fine if you don't look after him, but you'll give me the money, right? How did it come to this? I just couldn't understand Mandy's thinking anymore. Because if you can't look after him, I'll have to hire a babysitter, right? You should at least pay for that. Don't joke with me. Why should I have to pay? I had reached my limit. I didn't want to deal with Mandy anymore, who was always self-centered and trying to get money from someone. Mandy, enough is enough. Ever since the other day, it's been pay this, pay that. Enough already. I shouted my feelings into the phone. After a moment of silence, Mandy responded as if she couldn't understand. I'm not making any unreasonable demands, am I? If I'm going to let you meet Alex, I want something in return. If you can't look after him, I want compensation, that's all. That's what's wrong. Why do I need to pay to meet my own grandson? Why should I compensate you when you need to leave Alex with someone else because of your circumstances? Everything is just wrong. Mandy sighed deeply on the other end of the phone. Why can't you understand? She might have thought I couldn't hear, but I heard her perfectly. That's exactly what I'd like to say. I'm tired. I can't deal with you anymore. Don't call me ever again. I don't want to hear your voice. I didn't think you'd be so stingy and hard to talk to either. That's enough. The beep beep of the line disconnecting could be heard. Talking to Mandy was driving me insane. The stingy one who makes no sense is Mandy, not me. Whatever happens, she tries to connect everything to money. I wonder what Brian thinks of Mandy. He probably doesn't know how Mandy behaves towards me, and Brian is likely enjoying what he thinks is a happy married life. Just when I was worrying about this, suddenly he called. Maybe Mandy said something to him. Perhaps she had fed him some false information. Feeling heavy-hearted, I picked up the smartphone. Mom, I'm really sorry. Suddenly, Brian started apologizing, and I was surprised. What was going on? As I was confused, Brian spoke up. Actually, I'm thinking of divorcing Mandy. What? What happened? Why would you suddenly say that? I exclaimed loudly. In front of Brian, Mandy acts subdued and extremely reasonable. She's always cheerful and kind, and Brian said he loved those traits about her. So I thought Mandy was perfectly hiding her true nature in front of Brian. I never imagined that I would hear the word divorce from Brian's mouth. It's not sudden, Brian began to explain. It all started on the day Mandy called me to take care of Alex. That day, Brian happened to overhear part of the conversation. That day, I was off work and took a nap because I was tired from work. When I woke up, I heard Mandy saying unreasonable things to you. After Mandy hung up, Brian immediately confronted her. Apparently, Brian had felt something was off with Mandy since they got married. She suddenly became very particular about money after getting married and started to manage Brian's salary meticulously. Would expect expenses to arise when we want children. He thought she was saving for that, but it didn't seem like our savings were increasing at all. I found it strange, and then Mandy's pregnancy was discovered. That put the other concerns on hold for a while. Then, after Alex was born and child rearing started, Mandy became increasingly self-centered. She ignored her own responsibilities and made Brian do all the housework. Understanding that she was physically struggling postpartum, Brian actively took on household chores. Perhaps getting a taste for it, Mandy gradually stopped doing any housework. After Brian started taking care of all the housework, he even did the nighttime feeding. Seeing Mandy just looking annoyed while their child cried without doing anything, Brian's love for her cooled significantly. During this time, he overheard my conversation with her. When he confronted Mandy, she said, "What's the big deal? Your mother lives alone and doesn't need much money, right? Then it's fine if we take a little. Plus, she gets to see her grandson, so it's not a bad deal." Brian was scared by how calmly Mandy could say such things. He was shocked that the woman he married could be so unreasonable and self-centered. He felt a sense of crisis about the future, worrying about Alex growing up with such values. Brian proposed divorce on the spot. Mandy seemed unconvinced. "It's ridiculous to get a divorce just because I tried to get $1,500. Angered by her words, Brian yelled back, "Then earn it yourself! If you can say that, you can earn $1,500 yourself, right? I don't think you can, considering you've never worked properly before." Brian proactively said that to her. "I can do it. If I get serious, I can earn not just $1,500, but $3,000. Mandy responded exactly as Brian hoped. He immediately said, "If you can't earn $1,500 within 3 months, we're getting a divorce." Mandy laughed and said, "I only need 1 month." "So you're not divorced yet?" No, I don't think she can really work. For now, I'll take paternity leave to see how it goes, but I think it'll end in divorce. Brian apologized for the trouble. During the 3-month period, he planned to prepare for the divorce. He also said he would investigate what Mandy was spending money on. I secretly looked at the bank account Mandy manages, and there's no money at all. It shouldn't be like this if managed properly. Since she even begged Mom for money, there must be something going on. I promised to help in any way I could and ended the call. Afterward, Mandy started job hunting. Initially, she left the house high-spirited, claiming she would find a job immediately. However, as the month was about to end, she still hadn't found work. Desperate, Mandy applied for jobs haphazardly. Her first job was as a cleaner at a hotel. Cleaning is just like what I do at home. This is easy. That's what Mandy said, but it must have been hard because she quit after just 1 week. It just wasn't a place where I could show my true ability. After cutting short her tirade, she started working at a supermarket as a cashier. She couldn't get along with the other part-timers and quit in about half a month. It's that old hag's fault. She's just jealous because I'm young and pretty. After that, she worked at various places like a store, a bakery, a restaurant, and a hamburger shop, but she quit each one quickly for various reasons. The longest she lasted was half a month at the supermarket, and the shortest was at the store. On her first day at work, Mandy made a mistake at the cash register and was scolded by a customer, to which she responded with a counter scold. She threw her uniform on the floor and quit right then and there. She tried many jobs, but none lasted long. As promised, Brian presented her with divorce papers. You've seen how hard it is to earn money. I can't be with someone who has no ability to earn but begs others for money. Mandy pleaded with Brian. She didn't want a divorce, and she didn't want to lose the chance to see Alex, crying as she said this. Brian coldly responded to her. If you care about Alex, shouldn't you stop squandering money on other men? It seems Mandy had been hooked on nightclubs since before she was married. She frequently visited the nightlife scene, pouring large sums of money into one-night stands. She had distanced herself from that world after marrying and having a child, but apparently she couldn't hold back any longer. Instead of going to nightclubs, she secretly stayed in touch with a guy and gave him money. She drained their savings, bought expensive items, and funded that guy. Eventually, when she ran out of money, she tried to get it from me. The reason she wanted to leave Alex with me was because a guy had called her to his house. I was dumbfounded by such a reason. After the divorce, Mandy returned to her parents' home. She probably thought she could get help from them. However, Mandy's parents kicked her out of the house. Anyone who doesn't understand the value of money is not one of us. Mandy was easily kicked out of her parents' house and ended up wandering the streets, unable to rely on anyone. No one was willing to lend a hand to Mandy, who had nothing. The guy she had been funding also disappeared once he found out she had no money left. She even went to the nightclub, but was promptly kicked out without being allowed inside. Mandy said she even waited in ambush, but almost had the police called on her and had to flee. Now she's living day to day, doing odd jobs. After divorcing Mandy, Brian came to live with me. Living alone was fun and free, but living with my grandson is even more enjoyable. It was tough at first. returning to childcare after so long. It had been quite some time since Brian was a baby. I had forgotten the details, and my body isn't what it used to be. Every day I'm exhausted, collapsing into sleep. At the same time, Alex was what kept me going. Seeing Alex smile at me, all the tiredness would just disappear. His smile was indeed very much like Brian's. Every day is tough, but having Alex around makes me keep going. Holding Alex, Brian said this with a smile just like his son's. It's joyful to see my grandson grow, but it's also a pleasure to watch my son become a fine father right by my side. From now on, Brian and I will watch over Alex's growth together. We'll make up for the time we lost before.
Why are you always so stingy? It's not that I'm being stingy. You just waste too much. You throw away things that are still usable and rush to buy new ones. Isn't it better to have the latest things? If you keep chasing after new things, no amount of money will ever be enough. That's what I call being stingy. Greg is always like this, and if I stay silent, he just keeps buying new things. So when I see him looking at a computer, I end up saying, "Don't buy anything unnecessary." I am Sandra Brown, a 27-year-old working housewife. My husband is 5 years older, who was introduced to me by a friend. Before we got married, I didn't think he was such a spendthrift. But living together, it has become painfully obvious. The other day he said he was just going to the store. But he somehow came back with a microwave oven. What's this? Well, I was just out and happened to wander into an electronics store. And the clerk recommended it. It has an incredible number of functions, and it's unbelievably convenient. All these functions, but you don't even cook. And we bought a new microwave when we got married, didn't we? That was already 3 years ago. It's not broken and still works fine. It's a waste. We don't need to, and there's nowhere to put it. Don't say such stingy things. This one looks cooler and more stylish. Just throw the old one out. This isn't the first or second time something like this has happened. So, even though I don't want to say it, I end up having to. But according to my husband, that makes me look miserly. And recently, when I point things out, he starts snapping back. Shut up. Don't complain about everything I do. Despite such behavior, my sister seemed to approve of him since before our marriage. When he came to our house to greet. The reason is clear, it was because of his looks. My sister's criteria for choosing men are based on their appearance. My husband is quite handsome, a stereotypical good-looking type. Even I was struck by him when we first met, although I don't care much about looks. So, when we were getting married, my sister had a puzzled look on her face, wondering, why Sandra of all people? My sister is 3 years older and looks nothing like me. I resemble our father, while my sister takes after our mother. And our mother was a beauty that would make anyone turn their head. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that my sister inherited her looks exactly. From when we were young, she often said to me, "You're so ugly." When I started elementary school, my sister was in 4th grade. Because of her looks, she was quite noticeable even as a young student. You and your sister look nothing alike. Sandra's sister has a doll-like face. My teachers and classmates would often say. I felt that behind their words was the implication that, your sister is beautiful, and you are not. In middle school, expectations were high that Tracy's sister must be cute too. Leading to surprised reactions like, "You're her sister?" Although I was used to it, it still made me feel down. But in high school, I went to a different school from my sister. And such comments ceased, gradually making me care less. By the time I entered university, I hardly cared about appearances at all. Our parents never cared about our looks and loved us both equally. Repeatedly scolding my sister for her harsh words. Tracy. Why do you always say such things? She's your sister. But it's true, isn't it? Everyone around us says we don't look like sisters at all. I wonder why I have such an ugly sister. You. The person who says such things is much uglier. Too bad. Anyone can see that I am less ugly than Sandra. That's a clear fact. Enough. Despite being repeatedly scolded by our parents, my sister was unaffected. Perhaps growing up constantly being told she was cute by boys and others twisted her personality. Looking down on me might have been a hobby of hers. Sandra, you've never had a boyfriend, right? Well, it can't be helped with that face. Unlike you, I've never lacked for boyfriends. They keep coming even if I turn them down. Maybe I should share some with you. No thanks. If you keep talking like that, you'll be single forever. Or even if you get married, it'll definitely be to some super ugly guy. She would say, laughing loudly. So, when I introduced my husband to my parents, she was absolutely shocked. She must have been waiting to see what kind of ugly guy I would bring. She probably intended to laugh at whoever I brought back. After graduating from university and starting to live on her own, she hardly ever returned home. However, she came back all the way when she heard about my marriage, just to ridicule me. But her expectations were dashed, and she must have been sorely disappointed. Moreover, she must have been displeased that her less attractive sister was getting married before her. Until then, she would occasionally contact me to tease me. But in the 3 years since I got married, I haven't heard from her at all. I didn't contact her either. It seems she still talks to our parents occasionally. But when she opens her mouth, it's only to ask for money. Like my husband, my sister is quite a spendthrift. She spends her salary as soon as she receives it, and by mid-month after payday. She calls to ask for money, which troubles our parents. You're already 30 years old. Plan and use your salary to support your own life. Since she was so excessive, my father, who rarely raises his voice, seemed to have yelled recently. Because she is like this, I don't think I'll have much to do with her in the future. But I never imagined that such a thing would happen. Having been married for 3 years, my husband and I sometimes have small disputes over how to spend money. But I try to let such trivial matters slide, as they occur in many marriages. But recently, my husband's attitude has begun to change. You really are ugly, aren't you? You shouldn't say such things to your own wife. You know. I was quite surprised when I saw your sister during our marriage greeting at your home. Why? Because she's super beautiful. I couldn't believe you are sisters. I even thought I might have married the wrong person. Hey. But since we got married, I hardly see her anymore, which is a shame. Indeed, my husband was also gaping at her when he first met her. Of course, he didn't say anything since he was there for the marriage greeting. I wonder if he has always thought this way. I don't know why he suddenly brought up my sister, but it was quite a shock. I didn't want to be told such things by my own husband. Since then, my husband started coming home late. He leaves eagerly on weekends. When I ask where he's going, he sometimes says he's meeting friends or working on weekends. But his attire is quite casual. What bothers me the most is that sometimes I smell cosmetics on his clothes. However, he commutes on crowded buses every day. So it's not impossible that he might pick up the scent of a woman's perfume by chance. Even so, once I start worrying about it, it keeps crossing my mind every time I do the laundry. I thought, could it be cheating? Such suspicions bubble up. Once you start suspecting, there's no end. I feel it's wrong to suspect him just because of the scent of cosmetics, yet part of me can't help it. I hate to keep fretting over such thoughts, so I decided to ask him directly. Hey, I need to talk to you about something. Good timing. I have something to tell you too. Really? I'm going to divorce you. What? It was a stretch from the beginning. Beauty and the Beast might work, but a beast and a handsome man don't balance out. A handsome guy needs a beauty, after all. Hearing my husband bring up divorce made me think my suspicions might not be unfounded. Does that mean you already have someone else? I didn't say that. I'm just tired of living with a stingy, ugly person like you. Plus, you've been hiding something from me, haven't you? What? Hiding something? I don't know what you're talking about. There is actually one thing. But I had decided not to tell him about it. So you're going to play dumb, huh? Well, that's fine. Anyway, I'm divorcing you. Saying that, he handed me the divorce papers, already signed by him. You're cheating, aren't you? I couldn't help but ask him back. What? Are you trying to extort spousal support from me because you're short on money? Don't rely on me. What are you talking about? That makes no sense. But he didn't answer anymore, and the next day he left the divorce papers and went out. When I woke up the next morning, he was gone. It was a holiday, and he would usually sleep until noon. It was strange, so I went to the living room and found only the divorce papers on the table. His clothes gone from the closet. I called him immediately. What's going on? I told you yesterday I'm divorcing you. Just sign it and send it off already. But, shouldn't we discuss this more thoroughly if we're going to divorce? I've decided. It's already settled. Nothing you say now will change my mind. Consider it payback for deceiving me. After that, he hung up the phone, and no matter how many times I called back, he never answered. What he was saying didn't seem to relate to the thing I was hiding. I thought he might be using baseless accusations to cover up his own infidelity. Since then, days passed without any contact from my husband. He left without listening to my side and became unreachable. If asked whether I could continue married life with such a person, the answer would be no. But just submitting the divorce papers without saying anything else felt unsatisfying. Thinking this, I had not yet submitted the divorce papers when I received a call from my sister. Hey, what are you thinking? What do you mean all of a sudden? What are you talking about? When are you going to submit the divorce papers? Huh? How do you know about that? I haven't even told Dad or Mom yet. Because Greg is staying at my place. What? Then it clicked. My husband's affair partner was my sister. That's why he suddenly brought up my sister. But there was no way they had any connection. When did they start such a relationship, and where? Since when? Huh? Since when have you been in that kind of relationship? About 3 months ago? We ran into each other in town, hit it off, and... What? Greg is my husband. What are you thinking? Going after your sister's husband. A course correction, huh? From the beginning, Greg was never right for you. He's perfect for me because we're both attractive. I wondered what she was thinking by saying that. But she must have been desperate to brag about stealing Greg from me. My husband too, having such a relationship with his wife's sister. Shows a lack of moral restraint to an extreme degree. Because of that, I felt angry about being left and handed a unilateral divorce. But I no longer hesitated to submit the divorce papers. I wanted to divorce as soon as possible and become strangers again, a desire that prevailed. And I immediately submitted the divorce papers. Then, somewhat relieved, I felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Rather than liking my husband, I felt more obligated to stay with him because we were married. That's why I had been ignoring his wasteful spending and verbal abuse by telling myself, I can handle this much. I realized once again that my feelings for my husband had long since cooled. I wondered what I had been clinging to. I reported to my parents after submitting the divorce papers. Upon hearing the details, they were furious and immediately contacted my sister, trying to summon her and Greg to talk, but they refused to come. My parents offered for me to come back home and live with them. But I rented an apartment near my company and started living alone. I felt very clearly that my parents were being overly considerate because of the situation with my sister, so I thought it would be easier to be alone for a while. It was strange to me, but honestly, I wasn't as hurt as everyone around me seemed to think. The sympathetic looks from friends and relatives, knowing about it, felt heavier than the situation itself. That's why I haven't gone into details about the reason for my divorce at work. I just say it was due to personality differences, which isn't entirely untrue. Not long after I filed for divorce, my ex-husband remarried my sister. Upon hearing this, according to my mother, my father shouted, "Disowned. Don't you ever come across our doorstep again." I felt nothing and thought it was all irrelevant. But I felt somewhat sorry that my father had to shout so often because of me. Both my sister and my ex-husband are strangers to me now. And I thought I would never meet them again. However, by some bad timing or whatnot, I went to a restaurant to dine with a friend for the first time in a while. And there was my ex-husband with someone who seemed to be a colleague from his company. I couldn't help but look away, wondering why I had to encounter him there. Huh? Isn't that Sandra? As I tried to go to the restroom, my ex-husband, as if he had been waiting, approached me with a smirk on his face, unabashed. Are you okay with this? Eating so leisurely here. Things must be tough for you, right? What are you talking about? I heard you're drowning in debt. What? I was momentarily stunned, not understanding what he was talking about. You don't have to hide it anymore, I know everything. That's why you were always so stingy. I was really in a dangerous spot, huh? Dangerous? What are you talking about? If I had stayed with you any longer, I might have ended up being saddled with your debt. A debt of $500,000 is no joke. At his words, a puzzle clicked in my head. I muttered to myself. So that's what he had been talking about. The words about hiding something and playing dumb were about this. But I have absolutely no recollection of such debt. I live within my means, fundamentally not needing to borrow money or having any need to do so. If there was any, it certainly wasn't me. I thought, that's it. A certain thought crossed my mind. Who are you confusing me with? Huh? That's not a debt, but the amount of my savings. What? This was my secret. Actually, before getting married, I had dabbled a bit in FX, that is foreign exchange margin trading. A friend was doing it, and I tried it out with just beginner's luck. It somehow went well, and I made money easily, which scared me. I felt like I could lose touch with the value of money. If I continued like that, I would end up living a life controlled by money. A life of rejoicing and lamenting over profits and losses wasn't the life I wanted. I decided I was better suited to living an ordinary, modest life and quit. The savings from that time, $500,000, remained untouched. I thought about revealing this after getting married. But I hesitated to speak about it given my husband's spending habits. I could foresee that a spendthrift husband would rely on it. Plus, I thought he might encourage me to do it again if he knew it was so profitable. I had decided never to do it again, and I didn't want to argue over such things. So I chose not to tell him. Basically, how could an ordinary office worker like me accrue $500,000 in debt? Who would lend such an amount to me? Think about it. But Tracy said you had a $500,000 debt. And I needed to break up with you quickly, or I'd be stripped bare. I figured as much. That sounds just like something my sister would say. And so, my husband naively believed her and switched from me to my sister. It might be a coincidence that my sister's alleged debt amount matched my savings. But it felt almost deliberate, which was a bit funny. I think my sister might have been projecting her own issues onto me. If anyone, my spendthrift sister might well have significant debts. She's the type who can't resist getting what she wants, even if it means going into debt. Even so, my sister is just an ordinary office worker too. And it's hard to believe she could have that much debt unless she borrowed from dangerous places. Maybe that's also why she targeted my former husband. His company is fairly substantial. He earns significantly more than other men his age working at ordinary companies. Maybe she planned to marry him and use him to pay off her debts. What do you mean? This is just my guess, but isn't that debt actually my sister's? Tracy's. Like you, she's the type who only spends and can't save any money. No way. Maybe you should go home and check properly? My words turned him pale. Perhaps he was finally waking up to reality. Standing in front of my flustered ex-husband, I felt myself becoming increasingly calm. And then I thought again how glad I was to have divorced such a man. Now, I wish I could erase the reality that we were ever married. But it is an undeniable reality, and I needed my husband to recognize this reality again. Oh, right. I think it should arrive soon. What? I've asked a lawyer to send you a bill for alimony. Huh? It's natural, right? Now that we are divorced, you are supposed to pay alimony. You have $500,000 in savings and you still want to take money from us? Well, that's a different matter. After saying this with a smile, he just stood there speechless. Leaving him behind, I returned to my own table. Soon, my ex-husband disappeared from the restaurant. I felt refreshed, and the meal and drinks that night tasted exceptionally good. I thought I was truly done with him. However, the following month, my ex-husband contacted me. I picked up the phone, thinking he would say something about the alimony. I've been thinking a lot. Oh, really? Let's give it another try. Why would that be? I couldn't understand how he could reach such a conclusion. Besides, did he really think I would agree to such a thing? I was deceived by Tracy. But I've come to my senses. From now on, let's live as husband and wife. We can live it up with your savings. Essentially, he was dazzled by my savings. What a selfish man. Apparently, he had a big fight with my sister afterwards. As I suspected, my sister did have debts. Though not as much as $500,000, it still exceeded $100,000. Also, without me to curb his spending. My ex-husband had apparently squandered a significant amount and incurred a substantial debt. As he rambled on over the phone, I became so tired of responding that I just hung up and immediately blocked his number. Just as I thought my sister might contact me, the phone rang. And by accident, I pressed receive instead of hang up. Hey, I heard you have $500,000 in savings. Her voice was unusually chirpy. That's my sister. Both of us snagged foolish men. But let's not talk about something as cold as compensation. Let's get along as sisters from now on. Her clingy, sticky voice made my skin crawl, and I hung up without responding. Then quickly blocked her number. It was like they were the perfect couple for each other. After that, my sister ended up with nowhere to go but to stay with my ex-husband. Living a debt-ridden life in a shabby apartment, working from morning till night. My mother told me that my sister had repeatedly asked for financial help. But my father, who answered the phone, was furious. They often fought over money. And one of their fights escalated so severely that the police were called. And they contacted my parents. But my father told the police to lock them up or do whatever. Because they were no longer related to them. I thought, my poor father. I worried a bit about his blood pressure. Despite being cut off. My undeterred sister apparently went to our parents' house to ask for money next. Our family home was built by my great-grandfather and is quite old. I had thought about using that $500,000 for renovating the family home. But instead, I decided to buy a new house. A few months later, coinciding with my father's retirement, I applied for a transfer at work and moved to a rural area. I bought a house near my new workplace, where I now live with my parents. Of course, I haven't given my address to either my sister or my ex-husband. I embarrassingly explained the situation to my coworkers. And asked them to tell my ex-husband and sister that I had left if they came looking. The coworkers sympathized with me a bit but kindly agreed. The new house has a fairly large garden, and my mother is delighted to be able to enjoy gardening. She is very good at cooking. Every day, I enjoy my mother's delicious meals. And I've quickly settled into my new workplace, enjoying life immensely. I'm grateful for the peace of everyday life. Despite everything, I plan to keep moving forward.
I am living with my son out of consideration for my mother-in-law and her feelings. Please put Max first. What do you mean by that? From now on, the grandparents will be doing the kindergarten pickups and making the lunches. The grandchild is a treasure, right? The daughter-in-law said this with a smirk. So this is her true nature. I am so upset that it makes me sad. We were suggested by our son to live together and started living with his family 3 months ago. Living with our grandson was very joyful, but taking our silence for granted, the daughter-in-law started neglecting the household chores and care of her own children. When we finally addressed this, she responded with the words I mentioned earlier. Unable to say anything, my husband, who had overheard our conversation from the next room, came in. If that's what you say, we'll do exactly that. After all, you're living with us. My husband gave me a meaningful look. Yes, we will take care of Max ourselves. Pleased with our response, the daughter-in-law went back to her room with a satisfied expression. If Erica means that, then we have to respond appropriately. I nodded at my husband's words. My name is Kim Brown. Our only son, Steve, left home 6 years ago when he got married. Now, I live with my husband Howard. Howard is 55 years old. He was a middle school teacher but retired early 2 years ago due to the demanding nature of his job. The kid is already independent, and we have some savings. We'll manage with my part-time job for now, so don't worry. I convinced my husband, who had worked hard for our family, to take an early retirement. 6 months after he quit his job, his health remarkably improved. Maybe I should start tutoring. After more than 30 years as a teacher, he continued to engage with children by working part-time at a tutoring center without overdoing it. He is very lively now. This experience made us deeply realize how being healthy in both mind and body is truly blissful. Our current life is ordinary, but we are very satisfied with the peace of mind it brings. Max, you'll be a first grader next year. Have you already bought your school backpack? Our lives drastically changed the day after this conversation, triggered by a phone call from Steve. Steve lived about a 30-minute drive away with his wife Erica and their 5-year-old son, Max. Although we often reached out to see our grandson, it was rare for them to contact us. So, it was unusual when Steve called. It's rare to hear from you. Are you three all well? Have you bought Max's school backpack yet? I ended up bombarding him with questions. No, not yet. It's about time to buy one, isn't it? If you and Erica are okay with it, can we give it as a gift for his school entry? That would really help, Mom. Steve's voice perked up for a moment, but then there was a pause. What's wrong? Actually, Mom, I have something to discuss. Can we come live with you at our family home? Live together? I was speechless at the sudden proposal. Steve reluctantly explained the reason. I hadn't heard about it before, but Steve's family was currently facing financial uncertainties. As Max grows, expenses will increase, right? We need to start saving now, Erica and I discussed. So Erica is also hoping to live together? This was surprising to me. Erica, my daughter-in-law, had quit her job when she became pregnant with Max and had been a homemaker ever since. Although the woman my son chose was not a bad person, I always felt a barrier and still hadn't quite gotten a grasp on Erica. Normally, a daughter-in-law would dislike living with her in-laws. Erica is actually looking forward to it. In fact, she suggested we live together. I was truly surprised by Steve's words, but nothing could be more joyful than always being with my grandson. I agreed without hesitation. Is this my home from today? Yes. Let's live together. Yay! A month later, my son's family moved into our home. Max's presence instantly brightened our home. Erica, hang your clothes here, and the detergent stock is here. I showed Erica everything around the house. Thank you, Mother. Thank you too, for suggesting we live together. Though I still felt a barrier, I actively tried to communicate with Erica to build a good relationship. Initially, Erica was quite reserved. I did most of the cooking, but she took the initiative in other household chores and shopping. Isn't Erica a good daughter-in-law? No wonder Steve fell for her. Living together allowed me to finally feel positive about Erica. However, gradually, her true nature began to reveal itself. Your cooking is so bland and always full of vegetables. It's really plain, isn't it? Erica, who is picky about food, started to criticize my cooking. I'm sorry. When you reach our age, you tend to prefer lighter foods. But I make sure it's nutritionally balanced and healthy. Ever since my husband fell ill, I've been studying nutrition and am very careful about our meals. While the dishes might seem tasteless to younger people, I am proud that they are healthy. Erica didn't stop at just complaining about the food. Mother, I don't want creases in my clothes, so could you leave them hanging instead of folding them? Then you should do it yourself. Even Steve started to scold Erica as she became increasingly presumptuous. However, far from reflecting, Erica became even more arrogant. In these times, you should be grateful that I'm allowing you to live with your grandchild. Hearing Erica dismiss Steve's words, both my husband and I felt frustrated, but considering the ongoing cohabitation, we held our tongues. Erica, seeing our silence as consent, began to do whatever she wanted. At first, she did take Max to kindergarten and made his lunches, but even that became too much for her. Max, what about kindergarten? Mom said I could stay home today. Grandma, let's play. When it was too much hassle, she started letting him skip kindergarten. Despite being a stay-at-home mom, she even started neglecting to take care of her own child. I was truly appalled. But that was still nothing compared to what came next. You're going to kindergarten today, right? Oh. What about your lunch? This morning, Erica hadn't made a lunch. Feeling uneasy, I checked Max's kindergarten bag and found a snack pastry from a store inside. Sending a kindergartner to school with just a snack pastry for lunch. I couldn't keep silent this time. Erica, this is too much. As a stay-at-home mom, you should at least make a lunch for your child. However, Erica threw unbelievable words back at me. Neither you nor father-in-law are working much, are you? You have time. I am living with my in-laws for the sake of my son. Please think of Max first. What do you mean by that? From now on, please handle all the pickups and lunch preparations. The grandchild is a treasure, right? Erica smirked as she spoke. So this is her true nature. I was so angry that it made me sad. Unable to say anything, my husband, who had heard our conversation from the next room, came in. If Erica says that, then we will do as she says. After all, we are living together. My husband gave me a meaningful look. Yes, we will take care of Max ourselves. Pleased with our response, Erica returned to her room with a satisfied look. After a while, she dressed up and left the house alone. If that's what Erica intends, then we must respond appropriately. I nodded at my husband's words. That evening, Steve came back after Erica and Max had gone to bed. I hate to bother you while you're tired. We reported the day's events to Steve. I'm really sorry. I'll speak to her properly. Steve, already tired from work, was further stressed by the situation. We couldn't burden him more as he was working hard for his family, and we couldn't let Erica continue to do whatever she wanted while living with us. We have a good idea. Can you trust us with this? I said this, patting the worried-looking Steve on the shoulder and showing a smile. Following that, we prioritized Max's care as Erica had said. I took over making Max's lunches, and my husband took care of the kindergarten pickups. Now that Erica no longer had to take care of her child, she started waking up only after Max had left for kindergarten and often went out dressed up during the day. Sometimes, she would just laze around the house all day in her pajamas with her smartphone in hand. Honestly, it was bothersome, but my husband and I decided not to say anything to Erica. Taking advantage of our silence, her selfishness escalated even further. One day, Erica had not returned home by Max's bedtime. Mom, where did you go? She's late, isn't she? I'll try contacting her. We were worried and called Erica. Hello. Erica's carefree voice came through the phone. Where are you right now? If you're going to be late, at least let us know. Then, an unexpected response came. I forgot to tell you, but I'm at a hotel in Miami right now. A hotel in Miami? Yes. I'll be back tomorrow evening, so please take care of Max. The call ended abruptly. A trip? We hadn't heard anything about it. My husband and I looked at each other and sighed. Mom, where is she? Max looked anxious. She has some errands and can't come home today. Max, let's sleep together today. How about we read the riddle book we borrowed from the library together? Yeah. Howard managed to distract Max well and took him to the bedroom. Just then, Steve came home. Steve, did you know Erica was going on a trip? Steve frowned. A trip? What are you talking about? Where would the money for that come from? Steve sighed deeply. I better talk to her myself. Don't worry, I intend to make Erica take full responsibility. We are looking after Max properly. It seemed Steve sensed that we had a plan. All right. Steve stepped back obediently. But from now on, you should manage the household finances. You shouldn't give Erica any money other than her allowance. Until now, Steve had been giving all his salary to Erica, letting her manage their finances. So, he had no idea how much they were spending or how much they had saved. But that just let her do whatever she wanted. Following our advice, from the next month, Steve only gave Erica an allowance of $200 and made sure not to give her any more money than that. $200 isn't enough for anything. Erica protested vehemently. But that's also my allowance. When Steve said that, Erica fell silent. The woman next door has a brand name bag, but we have. Initially, Erica complained every time she saw Steve's face after he told her, "You're not doing housework or taking care of the kids, so you should work." But then she stopped saying anything. Erica started taking out her frustrations on me and my husband. That's why the food is bland and full of vegetables. Ah, here we go again. So annoying. Erica continued to complain about my cooking, but we were not defeated. Max says he loves it. Yeah. I love Grandma's food. Nice, Max. Sorry, but we are prioritizing Max. We quietly fought back using the phrase Erica once used. Think of the grandchild first. It's so noisy from the morning. One morning, Erica came out of her room looking furious. I thought I'd make a swing for Max thanks to living with our grandson. I found a new hobby. Thank you, Erica. As soon as he said this, the sound of a hammer hitting would echoed throughout the house. Erica frowned, but seeing Max's eyes sparkle next to Howard, she couldn't say anything more. Howard started doing DIY deliberately when Erica was at home. It's noisy. I wasn't about to lose to Erica's grumbling. Howard is making a chair for Max right now. When you put your grandchild first, you just want to make things for him. Is there anything else you think we should make? Erica glared at me, who was smiling politely in response, and went back to her room. Contrary to Erica, who was accumulating daily frustrations, Max grew more and more attached to us each day. Steve, I can't stand living in this house. One evening, I overheard Erica exploding with complaints to Steve. Max seems very happy. Since we moved here, he hasn't even caught a cold. You're getting all the housework and childcare done, right? You better change your attitude soon, or you're going to have a hard time. Steve warned Erica. From then on, Erica's attitude improved somewhat when Steve was around. However, Steve often went on business trips. During those times, Erica would return home late as usual, doing as she pleased. Steve's words had no effect on her. It's been 8 months since they started living with us. Max had finally started elementary school. With the start of school lunches and group walks to school in the morning, there was no more need for packed lunches or rides, leaving my husband and me with nothing much to do. Max, what did you do today? My husband, a former teacher, willingly taught Max and started going to the library with him. Grandma, my friend said he wanted to come over, so I brought him. Sometimes after school, Max would bring friends home. Oh, welcome. Wash your hands, and maybe we'll bake some cookies. When this happened, just like when Steve was young and brought friends over, I would bake sweets with them or serve homemade treats if I knew about it in advance. Max's grandparents are so kind and nice. Right? Grandma and Grandpa are always on my side. Max said proudly, making his friends envious. Those words filled both my husband and me with joy. During dinner one day, when Erica usually ate quickly and returned to her room, she spoke to Max. Max, shall Mom help you with your homework? No thanks. Grandpa helps me with my studies. Max responded immediately. Seeing Erica's stunned face, we struggled to contain our laughter. Actually, that afternoon, Max had brought a friend home and they had this conversation. What's your favorite food, Max? Fried chicken. Can your mom make fried chicken? No, Grandma makes it. Actually, Grandma makes all our meals. Is that so? Erica must have heard this conversation from her room and finally realized she had no place in this scenario. How about we go out together on your next day off? No, I have plans to play with my friends. We're going to make pasta with Grandma, right? Max looked at me and smiled, so I smiled back and nodded. Seeing our interaction, Erica's expression turned visibly displeased. Aren't you overstepping by ignoring me, his mother? Erica glared at me. I was dumbfounded by her audacity but remained cheerful for Max's sake. It's exactly what you said, Erica. To think of the grandchild first. To us, Max is a treasure. That's not what I mean. Erica slammed the table, stood up quickly, and stormed into her room, slamming the door loudly. Seeing this, Max looked uneasy. It's okay. If Max wants to play with his mom, he can, and if he wants to be with Grandma and Grandpa, we're delighted. We are on Max's side. I patted his head, and he showed a relieved smile. From then on, while Max was at school, Erica persistently demanded, "Give me back my son." Give back? We are merely being grandparents. He's not even close to me, his mother. That sounds like a you problem. You must be saying bad things about me. Erica blamed us for Max not being close to her, ignoring her own actions since moving in. Steve must feel that this situation is odd too. Erica somehow believed Steve would support her. Since she wouldn't listen to us, we decided to discuss it when Steve returned from his business trip in 2 days. Steve, tell your father and mother to back off. As soon as Steve returned, Erica cried to him. We had already explained the situation to Steve, who sighed deeply. You brought this on yourself. Steve coldly rejected Erica. In a shocking turn of events, Erica then turned to Max for sympathy. Max, you like Mom more than Grandma and Grandpa, right? Max then came between my husband and me and grabbed our hands tightly. Grandma and Grandpa are always with me, listen to me, and teach me. I love my grandparents. Hearing this, Erica's face contorted. Are you betraying your mother? Her shout echoed in the room, causing Max to grimace. Seeing her lash out at Max was the last straw for us. Howard, could you take Max upstairs? Howard gently embraced the frightened Max and took him upstairs as I had asked. With the living room quiet, I slammed a thick envelope on the table. What is this? Thompson Detective Agency? Hearing detective agency, Erica flinched. I silently spread the contents of the envelope on the table. What is this? The photos clearly showed Erica holding hands with a man, entering a room together, along with a report that indicated an affair. We couldn't understand why we had to live together given Steve's average income. Suspicious of Erica, who neglected even her child's care and spent time frivolously, we hired a detective agency. The findings were beyond our wildest expectations, revealing Erica's affair. Steve glared at Erica as she trembled and looked down. You've betrayed our family. I want a divorce now. No, wait. Steve brushed off Erica's pleading hands. What's different? To you, we're nothing. Just go to that man you're cheating with. I had never seen Steve so upset. It pained me to see our son this way. I'm sorry. I went too far. I won't do it again, please forgive me. Trying desperately to be forgiven, Erica knelt. There's no way I can forgive you. Then I accept the divorce, but I won't give up Max. At this point, what was she thinking? I was astounded. You won't get custody. As I said this, Erica glared at me sharply. Max is my child. I bore him. I won't hand him over to someone like you. Erica was openly hostile toward me. For the past year, we've mostly been the ones taking care of Max. You've neglected your child and even had an affair. With all this evidence, there's no way you can get custody. I will get the compensation for the affair through the lawyer, too. If you object, we can take this to court. Anyway, pack your things now and get out of here. Thus, Erica was forcibly expelled from our home. After Erica left, Steve sat down wearily. I'm sorry for hiring the detective without telling you. While putting away the evidence of the affair into an envelope, I apologized to Steve. In fact, after learning of the affair, Howard and I had seriously debated whether to tell Steve the truth. We had hoped Erica might reform. However, there was no sign of that from her, and her attempt to unfairly hurt her own child was something we could not forgive. Mom, Dad, sorry for all the trouble. Can we still stay here? Steve apologized, looking remorseful. Of course. Let's raise Max to be happy together. At that moment, Howard and Max came down from upstairs. Dad, what's wrong? Max immediately noticed Steve's red eyes. Max, Mom is going to live somewhere else now. Max clung tightly to Howard next to him. Poor thing. He must have remembered being yelled at just by hearing the word. Mom. Max will always live here together with Grandpa, Grandma, and Dad. Saying this, Howard hugged Max tightly, and Max's expression softened a bit. Afterward, Steve and Erica proceeded with the divorce through their lawyers, dispassionately. The fact of Erica's affair also became known to Erica's parents. I am truly sorry for what my daughter has done. Erica's parents apologized, having flown in just to see us. Since the day we drove her out, we didn't know where Erica was or what she was doing. Do you think Erica is reflecting on what happened? When I asked Erica's mother, she gave a shocking response. We also don't know where our daughter is. We've disowned her. Disowned. I sensed a serious resolve from her parents. Just then, Max ran over. Grandpa and Grandma. You came to visit? Max. You've grown so much. Look, we brought your favorite snacks. They smiled warmly, clearly happy to reunite with Max. Max also seemed genuinely happy to see his grandparents, who he didn't see often. It's quite a trip to our place, but please come to see Max again. At my words, the two looked surprised. Is that really okay? Of course. Let's all watch over Max together. Thank you so much. To Erica's parents, Max was their only grandchild. Even though they were far away, their feelings were the same as ours. They always cared deeply for Max. Thus, even after Steve and Erica divorced, we kept in regular contact with Erica's parents and updated them on how things were going. Grandpa, I went catching dragonflies with Grandpa the other day. That's great. Next time, let's go bug hunting with Grandpa. Since Erica left, a peaceful life had returned to us. Recently, I learned that Erica had contacted Steve several times after the divorce. Erica asked me to get back together. Erica was quickly abandoned by her affair partner and ended up alone. However, she had never really worked and had always lived however she wanted, so she was not keen to find a job and soon ran out of her savings. So I hear that she pressed Steve for a reconciliation. When Steve refused, she then asked for financial support. People really don't change that easily, do they? I felt no emotion towards her anymore. Do you still get messages from her? I was worried. No. Every time she contacted me, I just sent her the affair evidence photos without writing anything. Then she gave up. Hearing that, I felt relieved. Thanks, Mom. Good night. Perhaps out of embarrassment, Steve quickly went to his room after saying that. It was a brief word of thanks, but I could sense many emotions in it. Thank you for the lively days. I murmured softly. A year later, Max, now in second grade, was deeply involved in soccer. After school, he would sweat it out at the soccer club, and when he came home, He would watch international soccer matches with Howard, who enjoyed watching soccer. On days when Steve was off work, the father and son would play soccer games together. Grandpa, want to try the game? That's okay. I can't handle such complicated things. It's not hard. Come on, let's play together. Saying that, Max and Steve sat down with Howard between them. Looking at the three men sitting on the sofa, I felt a touch of warmth. Surrounded by a calm and happy atmosphere. 3 generations, I want us to continue cherishing these simple everyday moments. Hey, lunch is ready. Hurry up before it gets cold. At my call, the 3 hungry men looked back. You 3 all make the same face. We all looked at each other and laughed.